So I want you to take a minute, and if you don't have a pen and paper, you can go grab one. You can pause this, go grab something. You can type something on your phone in the notes or on your laptop. And I want you to think and write down what you know or think about connected learning. Like if you don't know anything, just write down what you think connected learning is. And if you do know a little bit, then go ahead and write down what you know. So I'm going to give you just a minute. You can pause this because I'm going to go ahead and move on in just a second. So you can pause this while you're writing, and then we'll move on. All right, awesome. So I'm real excited to talk to you about what connected learning is, because I believe the quote that says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that is so true. In classrooms, I actually just read something today. It was comparing two different classrooms. And one classroom was a teacher that was all Pinteresty. Like she just had the themed out room. It was always decorated. She dressed up. And next door to her was a much simpler teacher. She was very basic. She just had some posters on the wall. But both of these teachers really cared about connecting with their students. And the teacher across the hall wrote, she said, over the years, she has watched students, older students, come back to the school to thank both of these teachers. And she found it interesting because it wasn't like the teacher that did the Pinteresty room had more students coming. It was that it didn't matter what the room looked like. It didn't matter, that one teacher was more excited and extroverted and dressed up. It was about their connection. And because they both cared about those connections and bonds with their students, they both were able to make lasting impacts. So much so that students regularly came back to thank them, to visit with them. So I want you to think about that when you're thinking about, the traditional classroom and connecting with your kids. Because connected learning is when you take personal interest and you offer support from peers, mentors, other caring adults, and you provide learning opportunities through these connections. And so it's a lot different. If you'll look and see, I have this little comparison. And so in the traditional classroom, they usually they sit and they get information. Okay, I always talk about exposure to information. So this is what they get. They sit and they have to be told what to learn. Connected learning is more hands-on. In the traditional setting, you're the consumer. You're getting all the information. They've already decided what you're going to learn, and you're just going to get it. In connected learning, the kids get to be a part of that. They get to be a part of the creation of what they're going to learn. Traditional classrooms are very, very scheduled. Connected, you get to be a lot more flexible. In the traditional classroom, kids have to learn all about random topics, things they're not interested in. When they're given tests, they read about these random topics that they sometimes don't even have any background information on to draw from. And it really makes it hard for them to connect to that. But in connected learning, you connect their academics to their interest. Traditional is lecture-based a lot, teacher-led, lecture-based. And in connected, you can change that up. Some of it can be teacher-led lecture. Some of it can be video. Some of it can be gaming. Some of it can be hands-on. There's so many different ways that you can do that. And I know that some classrooms and some schools do have a lot of this, but for the basic traditional public school classroom, this list really goes over the way it is there. So traditional classrooms, again, they're all about that retained information. How much information can you remember so that you can spit it out on a test? In connected learning, it's all about making those connections, that information connection to what they're interested in. It's not necessarily about remembering facts, but being able to explain and elaborate and talk about, being able to go find more information, connect it to other things in life. In the traditional classroom, a lot of times kids have to be very quiet. They're silenced. They're isolated at desks or in their little small groups. And in the connected environment, you get to create what kind of environment you want. Maybe sometimes it is the quiet, secluded learning space, but sometimes it's meeting up with other people. Sometimes it's going outside. Sometimes it's going on the road. You can create what kind of environment. If a kid wants to lay on the floor and learn, great. If they want to lay in their bed, if they want to sit on the couch, if they want to come stand in the kitchen and talk to you. Whatever it is, you get to create that environment. Traditional classrooms are all based on those standardized evaluations and tests, which are all measured on a standard linear graph of what kids should know. In the connected environment, you can not only create various ways for kids to show their learning, but you get to measure their growth and their gains based on their personal growth and their personal gains, where they're at and where they're going, not measured against anybody else, but measured against themselves. And that's so, so important for these kids. And the traditional classroom really meets the needs of a general population. But when you do connected learning, you get to meet their individual needs and their individual interests. And this really goes back to really getting to know these kids. What's sad is that kids are so naturally curious. I was at a friend's house the other day, and he's got a little 2-year-old. And man, she was just a talking. Why? Why is it that color? What are you doing? Where is this? She just had so many questions, and it was so exciting to see that curiosity. But it made me sad because in the traditional classroom, she's going to grow up, and if she goes to public school in kindergarten, she's going to have to sit down and be quiet and listen. She's not going to be able to ask a million questions. And these teachers just don't have time for that. They don't have the energy for that. They have too many kids in a classroom. They can't entertain that curiosity, but you can. And, if we've already stifled it in some of these older kids, then we can use this connected learning to pull that back out.